As he said, my name is Dr. and I'm an oncologist by profession. I came to be part of Hindu Mahasabha, I'd say 6 years ago now. In one such occasion that I attended, and I found that it fit what I wanted to do as part of giving back to the community. And here's what I find that HMSA means to me, and hopefully it will mean similar things to you. We are a bunch of dedicated volunteers working towards the empowerment of Hindu thought, Hindu political activism within the context of the US. Okay. We are trying to envelop and encompass people who are interested in making sure that what Hindus think, and the Hindus may be from anywhere in the world. We have members who are from Fiji. We have a speaker today who's come from Guyana. We have had members who moved away lately from South Africa. So it doesn't mean that Hindus are from India necessarily, although it's the vast majority of us. And we try to memorialize what Hindus did for our dharma, for our civilization, and we try to make sure that the social and political aspects of Hindus in America are strongly upheld. Whether we are fully successful at all times with a very minimal staff and essentially no funds, is yes, we can do better, and certainly we will do better. We're constantly growing. We are attracting new people. So Shashi is a fine example of one such. And therefore, I am very encouraged that we are starting a new program this year called Hindu Heritage Day. It is no coincidence that we are talking in this time of the year, because this time a lot of personalities that were very critical in actually getting our freedom, such as it is, were born, or this is just around that time. And it is a sad fact that even today, after many years of so-called independence of India, the government actually does not support memorializing people who are actually very important to us. So with that, I'll give the floor over to Shashiji to take it over to the next step. But thank you all for coming, and let's make this a great success in the years to come.
Thank you, Rashmi. Our next speaker is our guest of honor, Sri Anurupa Chhinar. She is a writer and researcher on Veer Savarkar. She is author of book Burning for Freedom. Her mission is to make the world know about Veer Savarkar and get justice to his valor and burning passion to free India, not only from British but indigenous political strife. Please.
Hello everyone. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm deeply thankful to Rudranathji, Gajananji, and of course my hostess Padvaja Vedarthan for making it all happen so that I'm here. It is a great honor to be here to speak on the occasion of Hindu Heritage Day. It is in honor of the legendary heroes Chhatrapati Shivaji, Rani Chennama, Pandit Madan Mohanlal, Veer Savarkar, and Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who have made significant contributions towards India. I will be speaking primarily on Veer Savarkar because he is the subject of my research. And then Veer Savarkar gave up his life in the highest tradition of yoga by abstaining from food and water. And he writes, Dhanyoham, kartavyamena vidyate kinchita. Dhanyoham, praptavyam, sarvamatya, sampanam. Blessed am I know of no duty now. Blessed am I, I have fulfilled what I wish to achieve. So this is Savarkar, a legendary hero. Thank you.
Thank you, Anurupa ji. It was very informative. So, the next speaker is Vashish Sharma. He is an immigration lawyer by profession. He is based out of Houston and he has a room for
Thank you very much. Namaste to all, one and all. My name is Vashish Sharma, or like they say in the United States, Sharma. I was asked to speak briefly on Madan Mohan Malviya. About myself, like our producer said, my name is Vashish Sharma. I'm an attorney here. I have a small law practice, 4 lawyers, myself and my 3 daughters. The eldest one is Anjali, and she's head of immigration law. The next one is Mala Sharma. She's head of the personal injury department. People get accidents or injured because of somebody else's fault. And Sharda is, of course, she's head of the taxation and real estate department in our law firm. When I was contacted to speak briefly about this gentleman, our hero, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, I did some research. I went to Wikipedia and did a brief amount of research to familiarize myself with who it is. And quite frankly, I had previously never even heard about the Hindu Mahasabha. So I did some research on that also. And what I'd like to share with you is number 1, and I'm short-sighted, so I'm going to have to look down a little bit closer at this piece of paper. I'll briefly discuss the role of Pandit Mohan Madan Malviya, his noble deeds, briefly discuss the role of Hindus in the past, and also where we go as Hindus in a modern Western society. Very briefly, if you'll indulge. Pandit Malviya, he was an Indian educationalist and political notable for his role in the Indian independence movement and as the 4th-time president of Indian National Congress. He was referred to as Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya and also addressed as Mahamana by Mahatma Gandhi. He's mostly remembered as the founder of the Benares Hindu University at Varanasi in 1916, which was created under a Hindu Act. It's the largest, or was the largest residential university in Asia and one of the largest in the world, having over 35,000 students across arts, science, engineering, medical, agriculture, performing arts, law, and technology. He was Vice Chancellor of the Benares University, 1919 to 1938. He was also President of the Indian National Congress on 4 occasions. He was also one of the founders of Scouting in India. Panditji was born December 25th in 1861. His profession included educationalist, journalist, lawyer, politician, and a freedom fighter. Regarding his personal life, he founded many organizations. Thanks. I can actually see that. He founded many organizations. Briefly, he founded the Sherigud Vidya Mandir in Indore. His eldest son, Ramakant, was a Diwan Prime Minister. And so he donated all his earnings to BHU. That's his eldest son. He's a family of giving. His eldest son was the late Sridhar Malviya, freedom fighter. There's a lot of stuff you can talk about him, but I'll be very brief, and I will run through the major highlights of his career. Instead of being a pandit or a purohit like his father and his generations ahead of him, he decided to go into education, and he was an assistant school principal. In 1887, he left the school job and joined as an editor of the Nationalist Weekly. He remained over 2.5 years and left Allahabad. He was offered co-editorship from the Hindu Indian Union. So from education to journalism, very important professions to transmit our ideology to the world and to our own people, as a matter of fact. Then he became president of the Indian National Congress. He served 4 terms. He was important to non-cooperation movement, and he was opposed to the politics of appeasement, where his ideology was divergent to that of Mahatma Gandhi in those days. During the civil disobedience movement, he was arrested April 25th, 1932, along with 450 other Congress volunteers in Delhi. Now, as a journal, I'll skip to his journalistic career. And we already know about the Hindustan in 1887. In 1889, he became the editor of the Indian Union and his own Hindi weekly. He started the Hindu paper Maratha in 1910. His legal career, of course, in 1891, he became an attorney, and he practiced in the High Court. He gave up his legal practice in 1930, which is significant because many attorneys would not give up their legal practice to go into service of their country. He was 50 years old at the time. And what people said, he did not have to give up a legal career. What some people said about him, like Tej Bahadur says that he was a brilliant civil lawyer.
And our HMSA treasurer, Barry Nirmaji, is going to speak about membership. Barry, can you please?
Thank you, Sasiji. Namaste, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. As a treasurer of Hindu Mahasabha, I would like to urge you to become members of our association, Hindu Mahasabha, for 2015. The dues are only $60 and you can pay via credit card. I have the device so that I can charge a credit card right here, right here. And you can just sign into the computer and on the smartphone, and the payment is done. Or if you want, you can pay by check. And we need money to support our activities, and some of the money that we collect, we donate to Hindu activists who are fighting in India against injustices. Like we have one leader called Mr. Bose, who is doing great work in India to basically defend Hindus against onslaughts by the Islamic and Christian missionaries who convert Hindus to other faiths. So we do support, we support fighters like Bose and others. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Dr. Anurupa Chhinar, who is going to speak about Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. Dr. Anurupa Chhinar has done many programs on Netaji since '94. He has arranged the 100th birthday of Netaji in 1997 at Chennama University. He is a PhD holder and polymer scientist by profession. He is interested in Hinduism and He is also founding trustee of Houston Durga Bharati. Anandji, can you please speak few?
Do you want the sweetness of the smiling dawn? If so, you must live through the dark hours of the night. Do you want the joy of liberty and the solace of freedom? If so, you must pay the price. And the price of liberty is suffering and sacrifice. These are the words of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, an inspiring freedom fighter and modern thinking, forward-looking statesman of India. By remembering Subhash, we celebrate liberty and one of its articulate and forceful champions. Today we celebrate life itself by remembering those who gave their lives so that you and I could be free people. He was a leader of men and the military. His was a life of daring and drama for the cause of India's freedom. So in my tribute, I'll just talk about two main subjects. Just wanted to check with you. Can you hear me now? Is it loud?
Yeah,
I don't think I can hear that right now. But this might be better this way. So two subjects. First, what is the contribution that he actually made for India's freedom? That's number one. Number two, what is the permanent significance of his life and his life's work? What is he has he left behind? And how he's inspiring Indians everywhere, even today. So to understand the impact of Netaji's work on modern India, we have to look at three things, okay? His commitment, his strategy, and his tactical operations. His commitment was to end British rule in India by direct action and military campaigns. Strategy, his sharp intellect and very well-refined knowledge of history led him to conduct a scientific analysis of the strong and the weak points of the British position in India. He also analyzed the strong and weak position points of the Indian freedom movement. And he articulated that the reason why it is taking so long to get independence was that the movement lacked a military component. In Jallianwala Bagh in 1919, Indian men, women, children, boys and old people were murdered brutally by British soldiers. There were also staggering number of deaths of thousands of freedom fighters all over India. Remember when in the earlier speech, in Marathi Swaraj showed, Kanakana ki gatha balidani. This was going on. And after all these events, Subhash Bose has made up his mind that his strategy will be to drive the British army out of the hallowed soil of India, to push out by force this brutal enemy and ruffians who came from a far away island and occupied India by force. He pointed out that the enemy already has drawn out the sword. Therefore, we will fight him with the sword. So regarding his tactics, we organized a liberation army out of Indians living abroad. We can connect with that notion. But these Indians were mostly Indian prisoners of war who were captured by Japanese and Germans, who were the Axis powers during the Second World War. And he forced his way into India, using whatever resources he had available to him, his goal being Chalo Dilli. So when Subhash was growing up, a little bit about his background. When he was growing up as a teenager, the surging tide of the Bengal Renaissance has reached its high water mark. Extraordinary, great people. You can see some pictures here, who are living and working in India at that time. Rishi Aurobindo, he was teaching the ideals of human fulfillment through what? Through spirituality and work. In this case, it was national freedom. Rabindranath Tagore, he was writing nationalistic and patriotic literature in prose, in poetry, in drama, in music, in song. And thousands of people joined the freedom movement because of his writings, for example. But the guiding principle of Subhash's life came from Swami Vivekananda. Particularly Swamiji's message of service and nation building. Strength. Strength is what jumps out to me from every page of the Upanishad, said Swamiji. Swamiji also had said and written that the message from Upanishad is fearlessness. Of him, that's called fearlessness. So he said that the Upanishads are the only literature in the world which uses the word fearless in page after page. So he said, be fearless, stand up, be strong. To be weak is actually a sin. Free yourself from all bondage. So Subhash, growing up, when he was a teenager, imbibed all these ideals of strength, character, self-sufficiency, mental and physical power, fearlessness from Swamiji's teaching. So these qualities will serve him well later on in his life. In the political arena, his guru was Deshabandhu Chittaranjan Das. He was called C.R. Das. So about his growing up in 1919, Father Janakinath Bose, he sent his bright son Subhash to study in England to sit for the ICS, Indian Civil Service examination. And as you would imagine, Subhash was really not interested to become an Indian ICS man. But he had to deal with a very strong-willed father, and aging father as well at that time. So, well, he thought he would take the opportunity to study the international developments in England and Europe while going there. He took the exam, turned out he did extremely well. Kind of tidbit is that in one subject, in the English language and literature, he turned out to be came out first. This is a little bit tidbit. Extraordinarily bright man. He would have been great, even if he did not do some of the other work. So he immediately resigned his service as soon as the exam results were over, came back to India to work in the freedom movement of Mahatma Gandhi and Chittaranjan Das. So he was imprisoned, of course, numerous times. The years 1920 to 1940, 20 years, he spent working in the Indian National Congress, which has been mentioned earlier. And that's the party which was spearheading the national movement. So he worked in there, one of the big influences on him was C.R. Dawes. He spent a lot of time with him in the Alipur jail. So C.R. Dawes, really the great man that he was, he taught him strategy, political savvy, and of course, the fire of loving Maratha. So then, in 1930s, he already has become a leading figure in the Indian national movement, in the Congress party. He was at the very top of that group. He became Congress president in 1938 and was re-elected in 1939. One of the things they did, just briefly, in 1939, one of the things he started in the Congress party was his National Planning Committee, which really was the seed from which grew the Planning Commission of modern India. It really started from there. So 1939, of course, the World War was imminent, and after the 1939 Congress was done in Haripura, or that was in Tripudi, 1938 was in Haripura, so he realized that this notion of working to drive the British Army directly by action, it was not the same idea that the other people had. In the meantime, the war started, and in 1941, the British government realized that it's too risky for them to have Subhash Bose free. So they put him in a house arrest in his Calcutta residence. And they also announced that during the duration of the war, as long as the Second World War will go on, the Subhash Bose will be under detention. And so his idea was that while the British are fighting the Second World War, it's a great opportunity for India to get her freedom. And so the war started. He was under detention. And he said, I'm going to get out of this house, one way or the other. And I'll tell you, he had two great journeys in his life. And the first one now he did in 1941. He escaped from his own house. And there's a lot of story. We'll be taking a whole day to talk about it. He went all the way to Calcutta, to Peshawar, Kabul, all in winter. Up to Peshawar, he had a person with him, and he took this guy as an insurance salesman. And then from Kabul, he took another disguise of an Italian gentleman. He took an Italian passport. That's the only way to get out of Kabul. He wanted to go to Russia, then to go to Italy, Germany. The Germans were fighting the British at that time, and had taken prisoner thousands and thousands of Indian soldiers who were fighting for the British. So Subhash Bose negotiated with the German military to release all of these Indians to him. And he had already started the organization called Provisional Indian Government. It was formed in Germany, and other big cities of Europe had branches there. So his idea was really, the original idea, that he would come to India from the west side, from the northwest side, and with these soldiers, which are already used to fight for the British, right? But that original plan was no more possible because Germany ended, they attacked Soviet Russia at that time. So because of all the world situation changing, he decided to enter India from the east side. So now he has to go to East Asia, like Singapore, something like that. So now how does he go there? The war is going on. He's constantly watched by the British. So So the Germans would not give him any passage from Germany to East Asia. The Japanese, who were also fighting the British, did not agree to do this. So he negotiated a deal. So he would come from Germany to the middle of Indian Ocean. It would be near Madagascar somewhere, in a submarine, in a German submarine, and then he actually did have a little boat they had, came to the port and then took a Japanese submarine. Each of them gave half of the journey. You see what I mean? They did half, the Japanese picked up in the second leg of the journey. So this was a very risky to his life if he got caught. You know, these were marked people, you know all of them pretty well. So he arrived in East Asia, and this was his second big escape, his secret journey, with two big escapes. So after arriving in Southeast Asia, he rapidly boosted the organization of the Indian National Army, which, by the way, was started by a man called Mohan Singh. He started it. And parallel to that, there was another gentleman who was doing a lot of work to organize the Indians into a military group. And his name was Rashbihari Bose. So he was working, Mohan Singh was working. So when Subhas arrived in Singapore, so Rashbihari Bose said, "You will be in charge of the INA from now on." So his big thing was, Subhas Bose is that he not only felt very comfortable with the military people, but organized the whole Indian community to support the freedom movement. This was the freedom movement. It's only coming from outside India, because he could not do his work within India the way circumstances changed. So the business people of East Asia, there are thousands of them, they supported wholeheartedly the effort. I think he would have been successful, frankly, without the support of the whole Indian community. And he was a great, inspiring leader, and people would love to follow him. There's this intense patriotism, this boundless energy and optimism, this physical and moral courage, and a big capability for suffering and sacrifice. All of that people watched and saw. And he was a natural leader of the time. So who were the soldiers? Again, in Asia, the Japanese had captured thousands of Indian soldiers who were working for the British. The Japanese were fighting the British. So now he got all those people working for him as army, and that's how INA was formed and strengthened. Now, one point needs to be made here, and that is that Subhas Bose was way ahead of his time in terms of recognizing women in the military. At that time, there was a lot of military operating all over the world. You know, just about everybody was fighting something. In Subhas Bose's army, INA was the only army that had a women regiment. It was called Rani Ki Jhansi Ki Rani Regiment. He said the ideal of Indian women should be the Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, but she fought in the first Indian War of Independence of 1857. So that regiment worked side by side with men, and so after formation and organization in Singapore, the INA marched towards Burma. And in the early days, things were going real good for them. They were able to continue heading towards Burma, and then of course the ultimate goal is to Chalo Delhi, right? That's why the army, his goal was he will take the army of this Indian who had already been conversant in fighting. You know, they were just used to be fighting for the British. Now they're fighting for INA, their own country. So it worked like a charm. And so you would think you would take this army all the way to Delhi and push out the British army. That was the goal. So they were going towards Burma. In January of 44, Netaji moved his headquarters from Singapore to Rangoon. It's getting farther down the road, right? Kind of almost like football, you know, you're going down the field. So he's now near, so he moved the headquarters, preparing for the advance of the Azad Hind Fauj. It was called Azad Hind Fauj, Azad Hind Sena, that's what I like to call it. For their movement towards the Indian frontier. The INA won a good battle in Arakan. That was very crucial against the British. And they're fighting their way, approaching the Indian border. And it was well funded by the Indian business at one point. And they loved him. People loved him. This was the darling of the country. This was the prince of patriots. This is the man that everybody admired. For what? Because of the fire he had out of Vivekananda's works, and because he was the genuine man. And everything was very sincere. So at one point in Rangoon, they had weighed him in gold for fundraising. And the proceeds, you know, for the INA. So that was the story, how he was able to inspire people from all walks of life. And April of 44, they entered Kohima. And at that point, INA was able to cross into the Indian border. So now in India, Indian soil, just crossed over. And after he crossed over to the Indian border, in the radio speech, he was actually broadcasting continuously whenever he could through India. But from wherever he was in Singapore or even Germany or Tokyo, he was constantly broadcasting. So people knew what was going on and how far he has come. So he, in the radio speech, when they came inside the Indian border, he announced that, and the group he formed, the government that is under which INA was fighting, it was called Provisional Government of Free India. That's true government of India, not the guys in Delhi who were ruling Delhi. So the provision, he said in the radio speech that the Provisional Government of Free India, your own government, has only one mission. The mission is to expel the British Army from the sacred soil of India by armed force. So I'm going to show you just quickly two pictures, very, very historic pictures. If you don't remember anything what I said today, at least kindly remember these two pictures. The first one in the top, I'm going to pass this around. The first one here, that one is reading the proclamation of the Provisional Government of Azad Hind, that's the government on the Indian soil. So he's reading their proclamation. They're saying this is what we're going to do. Our mission is to go to Delhi from here. So that's the top one. The bottom one is the press conference. And again, they are within the Indian soil, right? And he's announcing the crossing of the Indian frontier by the INA. And this is in the middle here. So, very historic pictures. I'm going to pass this around, so at least you know what the pictures are. The top one is the declaration, the second one is the press conference. Now, May of that year, 44, he had advanced to the outskirts of Imphal, right? And that would be the closest he would come to Delhi. His dream was to go to Delhi, right? But now we'll see things are not going to go well from now on. So they suffered a defeat in the next battle. which was in Imphal. So in November 1944, INA was compelled to retreat. And in 1945, INA surrendered. But things kind of speeded up from here. In August 1945, Japan surrendered. Remember Hiroshima, Nagasaki? The support from Japanese was completely gone because Japan itself was devastated. Undaunted, Netaji planned to go to Russia to reorganize and regroup and gain support of his freedom struggle. So his last available photograph was on August 17, 1945. August 17, 1945. He was coming down in a military plane at Saigon. That's the last recorded history. Everything from there on will be either speculation, assumption, or whatever you want to believe. But that history, recorded history, stopped with that picture. I wanted to bring that picture, but we'll show you perhaps later. Quickly now, I'm going to finish it up. According to some historians, he wanted to go to Russia, so he was heading towards Malviya. And he's claimed that he was on to develop engine problems. And they say that the plane crashed, that Netaji was severely injured. The story goes that the large amount of fuel was burning, and there was no way for him and his associate, I think it was Habibur.
Thank you, Anurupa. Thank you, our sister. Thank you, Dr. Anand. Now we have young speakers, and we have Surati Subhash. She is going to speak about Rani Chennama. We have two Chennamas. Not many people know about the other one. She is the one who, she is Benares Chennama. She is also from Karnataka. She is the one who brought down the mighty Mughal Empire. She gave refuge to Shivaji Maharaj's son Raja Ram, and she made Mughal army negotiate on her own terms on the table. So let's welcome Surati.
Imagine this. A woman stood, looking over the land and the citizens of her state, with the fierce yet gracious gleam in her eye. No one would even dream to imagine that in the mid-1600s, a female was in charge of a state in India who didn't even have royal blood in her veins. Many people believe that the idea of an independent woman belongs in the late 20th and 21st century, but these people would be wrong. There are innumerable examples of women who can prove this myth wrong, and one is none other than Chhatrapati Shivaji. Chennama is the proud ruler of the state of Kaladi in the district of Karnataka, and she is an extraordinary woman. She first came into rule through unusual means. The king of Kaladi, Sobhishekara Naraka, observed her walking with such grace and demanded to marry none other but her. By marrying a commoner, he went against the wishes of the royal advisors. However, this Cinderella story went away quickly. the king became very ill and stopped attending to the matters of the state. Not knowing who to turn to, Chennama decided to take charge and become the new ruler of Keladi. Many kings took solace in knowing that Keladi was weak because now a woman was ruling it, and came in to attack Keladi. However, time and time came again that Chennama proved that she was ferocious in battle and at the same time very forgiving to her enemies. Chennama is known for one thing in particular. She defeated the infamous Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb in battle and kept Keladi safe. Chennama was protecting one of the Emperor Aurangzeb's enemies, so the Mughal Emperor used this as an excuse to conquer the state of Keladi. At this point, the Mughal army had already conquered about half of India. Chennama prepared well for the battle in the deep jungles of the land and defeated the Mughal army, who was not prepared for the conditions of the jungle. When she did what no other king in India had succeeded in to do, she gained the respect that she so rightfully deserved. The brave queen's name, Keladi Chennama, is written in golden letters in the history of Karnataka and in the history of India. Jai Karnataka. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so informative about Rani Keladi Chennama. And we have our next young speaker. Is Rahul Nirmal. And he's going to speak about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me fine without the microphone? Is that okay for you?
Use the microphone. Use the microphone. Use the microphone.
Everyone can hear me fine? So dear Hindu brothers and sisters and elders, first of all, let me thank the organizers of the Hindu Mahasabha of America for giving me this opportunity to speak about Shivaji Maharaj, who was a great leader of his Hindus. I have just had this great opportunity to research and learn about this great man. He is also known as Shivaji Bose and Chhatrapati, meaning monarch. Shivaji Bose was born around 1630 and died in 1680. He was an Indian warrior king and a member of the Bose Maratha clan. Shivaji was descended from a line of prominent nobles. At the time, India was under Muslim rule. The Mughals were ruling in the north, and the Muslim sultans of Bijapur and Golconda were ruling in the south. All three ruled by right of conquest, with no obligations whatsoever towards their subjects. Shivaji, whose ancestral estates were situated in the realm of the Bijapur sultans, found the Muslim oppression and religious persecution of the Hindus so intolerable that by the time he was only 16, he convinced himself that he was the divinely appointed instrument of the cause of Hindu freedom, a conviction that was to sustain him throughout his life. Collecting a band of followers, in 1655, he began to seize the weaker Bijapur outposts. In the process, he also destroyed a few of his influential Hindus who had become allies and lackeys of the sultans. All the same, his daring and military skill, combined with his sternness towards his enemies, won him much admiration. His depredations grew increasingly audacious. Several minor expeditions sent to defeat him proved ineffective. When the Sultan of Bijapur in 1659 sent an army of 20,000 troops under Afzal Khan to defeat him, Shivaji, pretending to be intimidated, enticed the enemy deep into difficult mountain terrain, and then killed Afzal Khan at a meeting to which he lured him by his submissive appearance. Alarmed by Shivaji's rising strength, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb ordered his viceroy of the south to march against him. Shivaji countered by carrying out a daring midnight raid right within the viceroy's encampment, in which the viceroy lost the fingers of one hand and his son was killed. Discomfited by this reverse, the viceroy withdrew his force. Shivaji, as though to provoke the Mughals even further, attacked the rich coastal town of Surat and it took immense booty. So as I've said, Shivaji managed to carve out an enclave from the declining Sultanate of Bijapur that formed the nucleus of the Maratha Empire. This Maratha Empire was of great importance for the Hindus because it fought the barbaric Mughal rulers like the hated Aurangzeb. In 1674, Shivaji was formally crowned as Chhatrapati of his kingdom at Raigad. Shivaji established a competent and progressive civil rule with the help of a disciplined military and well-structured administrative organizations. He innovated military tactics, pioneering the guerrilla warfare methods which leveraged strategic factors like geography, speed, and surprise, and focused on pinpoint attacks to defeat his larger enemies. From a small contingent of only 2,000 soldiers inherited from his father, Shivaji created a force of 100,000 soldiers. He built and restored strategically located forts, both inland and coastal, to safeguard his territory. He revived ancient Hindu political traditions and court conventions, and promoted the usage of Marathi and Sanskrit rather than Persian in his court and administration. Let me tell you another interesting story. In 1666, Aurangzeb invited Shivaji to Agra, along with his 9-year-old son Sambhaji. Aurangzeb's plan was to send Shivaji to Kandahar, now Afghanistan, to consolidate the Mughal Empire's northwestern frontier. However, in the court on May 12, 1666, the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb made Shivaji stand behind the military commanders of his court. Shivaji took great offense and stormed out the court, but was promptly placed under house arrest under the watch of Aulad Khan, Katwal of Agra. Shivaji's spies informed him that Aurangzeb planned to move Shivaji into Raja Vikhada's Haveli and then to possibly kill him or send him to fight in the Afghan frontier. So Shivaji planned his escape. Shivaji feigned severe illness and requested to send most of his contingent back to the Deccan, therefore ensuring the safety of his army and deceiving Aurangzeb. Therefore, on his request, he was allowed to send daily shipments of sweets and gifts to saints, fakirs, and temples in Agra as offerings for his God. After several days and weeks of sending out boxes containing sweets, Sambhaji, being a child, had no restrictions and was sent out of the prison camp. And Shivaji, disguised as a laborer carrying a sweet basket, escaped on August 17, 1666, according to Mughal documents. Shivaji and his son fled to the Deccan, disguised as sadhus. After the escape, rumors of Sambhaji's death were intentionally spread by Shivaji himself in order to deceive the Mughals and to protect Sambhaji. Shivaji had acquired extensive lands and wealth throughout his campaigns, but lacking a formal title, was still technically a Mughal zamindar, or the son of an Abdul Shahi Jagirdar, with no legal basis to rule his de facto domain. A kingly title could address this, and also prevent any challenges by other Maratha leaders to whom he was technically equal. He would also provide the Hindu Marathas with a fellow Hindu sovereign in a region otherwise ruled by Muslims. Shivaji was crowned king of the Marathas in a lavish ceremony at Raigad on June 6, 1674. Pandit Gagabhat officiated, holding a gold vessel filled with the 7 sacred waters of the rivers Yamuna, Indus, Ganges, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri over Shivaji's head and chanted the coronation mantras. After the ablution, Shivaji bowed before his mother Jijabai and touched her feet. Nearly 50,000 people gathered at Raigad for the ceremonies. Shivaji was bestowed with the title of Chhatrapati, which means paramount sovereign. Shivaji died in 1680, leaving behind a state always at odds with the Mughals. Soon after Shivaji's death, the Mughals attempted to invade it, but could not subdue the Marathas, and it resulted in a war of 27 years, from 1681 to 1707, ending in the defeat of the Mughals. Shahu, a grandson of Shivaji, was kept prisoner by Aurangzeb during the 27-year war. But after the latter's death, his successor released Shahu. The Marathas remained the preeminent power in India until their defeat in the Second and Third Anglo-Maratha Wars from 1805 to 1818, which left the British East India Company in control of most of India. Shivaji's contemporary, the poet Kavi Bhushan, stated, had it not been Shivaji, Kashi would have lost its culture. Mathura would have been turned into a mosque, and all would have been circumcised. 19th century Hindu revivalist Swami Vivekananda considered Shivaji a hero and paid glowing tributes to his wisdom. When Indian nationalist leader Lokmanya Tilak organized a festival to mark the birthday celebrations of Shivaji, Vivekananda agreed to preside over the festival in Bengal in 1901. This is what he wrote about Shivaji. Shivaji is one of the greatest national saviors who emancipated our society and our Hindu Dharma when they were faced with the threat of total destruction. He was a fearless leader, a pious and God-fearing king, and verily a manifestation of all the virtues of a born leader of men described in our ancient scriptures. He also embodied the deathless spirit of our land and stood as the light of hope for our future. Shivaji statues and monuments are now found in every town and city in Maharashtra and across different Indian cities outside of state, such as statues in Bangalore, Vadodara, Surat, a monument in Agra, Arunachal Pradesh, memorial in Delhi, a statue inside the premises of the National Defense Academy in Pune, and an equestrian statue inside the Parliament House complex in Delhi. Thank you.
We have a small announcement by overseas friends of BJP to promote.
Namaste, my name is Pramod. I am here as a representative of overseas friends of BJP. Also in my personal capacity, respect to Dr. Rao, Giri Mataji, known before the elections as well. And we have, for a period of time, I'm a writer essentially, I've written for various different columns. And for a period of time we decided that the better venue for writing and exploring different ideas was to establish a platform where we could disseminate such ideas and talk about several different aspects of not just Indian civilization but also day-to-day life of any person in the world. So sort of epiphany happened. I met two of my friends here, Sunanda Vasist and Adit Kapadia, before the campaign 2014. And we just started recently, about a month ago, right about an hour before Obama landed in India, a media portal called Mind Makers. And I wish there was internet here, I could show it briefly, but it is www.mind.net, essentially talking about various aspects of the history of India. We have written extensively on economics, science and technology projects that are in progress. The current national government in India has invited NRIs to participate in nation building via ideas, via projects that they are already working on, things that can be replicated or customized in India. So this is our small, humble effort. It remains a small website to begin with. And Adit Kapadia will talk a little bit about what it is. And if anybody of you wants to contribute and write, we're more than happy to share my email and we can write about several aspects. One of the topics we wrote about recently is about the history of Vijayanagara Empire post Krishnadeva. Not a whole lot to discuss. I am from South India, so I do know a little bit of what happened after the Battle of Talikota as well, which is considered to be a devastating battle, but not really. So we talked about those aspects also. And we'd be more than happy to give you a little bit of idea about the content.
Thank you everyone for having us here. I won't be long. I'm trying to wrap this up quick. So essentially what we wanted to do was provide a solution-based narrative. I mean, you have lots of websites talking about problems, issues with things, but very few are coming up with solutions and stuff. And so we decided to take different aspects. So as you can see, it's spirituality, politics, strategic affairs, defense issues, many of them. I mean, you had some ex-army officer writing about the Indo-US nuclear deal. At the same time, someone was writing about the Vijayanagara Empire. And another interesting thing that we've come up with is a weekly podcast that me, Pramod and Sunanda do, and we talk about different issues. So this time we talked about an Indo-American issue, the attack in Alabama, and we talked about Hindutva debate. Last week we did an analysis of the Delhi elections and different things like that. So we welcome you to join on our journey, to contribute, to read articles, and give your feedback on it. And we would love to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Pramodji and Chhatrapati. I think on behalf of Hindu Mahasabha, I was not expected to speak on this, so it is all extempore. So if I say something wrong, please forgive me. On behalf of Hindu Mahasabha, as President representing this organization to you, I welcome any opportunity that we could have for contribution to the motherland. We certainly do this on an individual basis, but we do it on a collective basis. It's certainly a fantastic opportunity. Certainly, since you are representing a political organization in India, as a branch here, I would hope that you would ask your parent organization to talk about the control of Indian temples, Hindu temples, by the government, as opposed to any other place of worship by any other faith group. So that is something that is paramount on our minds, and certainly since you are here, I've taken this opportunity to present that to you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Honorable Consul General Shri P. Harish. He has interest in Indian culture and traditions. We welcome you, sir, on behalf of HMSA, and request you to please speak to you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank Dr. Talukdar and all of you for inviting me here to be a